All right, welcome back YouTube. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than things that we've done in the past. Last week, if you remember, we did this painting of a pelican and I thought it turned out pretty good. And so I asked my wife what she thought of it, as I usually do. And her response was, it's not my favorite, which is code for I don't really like it. So I kind of asked her, what is it about it that you don't like? And she pointed out this area right here. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you guys can see that better. So she pointed out this area right here. She felt like the back wing here looked like it was part of the beak. And after she said that, I can't stop looking at this area right here. So she suggested that I do something in this area here to create more contrast between the beak and the wing. As I started to look at it, I also realized that this does kind of look like an open beak, so it doesn't make sense. I also looked at some videos of pelicans landing, and when the pelican is this close to his landing spot, the feet should have been out already. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps that I'm going to take to try to improve the composition on this right here. Whether or not it's going to work, we won't know until the end. So at the very end of the video, I'll put the two side by side, and then you guys can tell me which one you like better. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try to remove some of the watercolor paint from the areas that I want to repair. And for this step, what I'm doing is I'm very gently scrubbing with a bristle brush, and then I'm going to just dab with a paper towel to kind of lift the paint. I'm trying to avoid scrubbing, so all I'm doing is basically working the water into the paper and then blotting it off to try to remove as much of the paint as I possibly can. And I want to repeat this several times to get it as all the extra stuff off, and then I'm going to switch to something else. Now that I got most of the paint off, what I want to do is I want to use the Mr. Clean eraser, and I want to very, very, very gently just scrub a little bit of the paint off. Now this requires very, very little pressure. The Mr. Clean eraser has, not only does it have cleaning agents in it, but it also has a little bit of abrasive. So you have to be very, very careful when you use this not to damage the paper. So I'm taking off as much as I can, being careful not to damage the paper. And I'm also going to do this for where the feet are currently located, because I want to replace that with the tail. Once I have everything erased per se, the next thing to do is to thoroughly dry the paper. And then I'm going to take a few minutes to redraw the areas that I want to change. So none of the references that I had a real clear vision of what the feet look like as they come out when they're landing. So I found this video online by Lena Dean that really helped me figure this out. Okay, so I got the wings redrawn, I got the feet put in, I got the tail put in. So now it's just a matter of getting back to painting. So as I go through this part right here, I'm going to be adding these new features. I'm also going to be making some modifications to the rest of the pelican to make sure that everything is unified and it all looks like it belongs together. Alright, the rest of the process from this point on is the same as it was last week. We're using the same palette and using the very same techniques that we used to create the original painting. The one change that I did make is I felt that the shadows weren't quite strong enough, they weren't quite deep enough. So I switched over to the burnt umber with the blue mixture just to increase the depth of the shadows. Aside from that, everything remained the same. So as I rework these areas, I want to leave you with the tip of the day, and that is don't get too attached to your own work. Remember that the artwork that you're producing, whether it's for fun or for sale or a commission, is meant to be seen by others, and what they see may not always be what you intended. So find somebody that you trust and have them look over your work. Sometimes they'll see something that you completely missed when you were painting, whether intended or not. And then you, as the artist, get to make the final decision as to whether or not you want to make changes to it. All right, so these are all the changes that I made. What do you think? A couple of little things that you should note is when you use the Mr. Clean, because of the texture of this product right here, it does change the texture of the paper as well. So when you get ready to repaint, you're going to find that the paint absorbs a lot quicker, which can be a little bit tricky when you are trying to blend. Also, in some areas, like right there, it's hard to see, but it kind of took just a little bit off the top layer of the paper off. It's not that noticeable, so I'm not too worried about it, but that was, for me, that was like, hey, I need to stop before it goes too far. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to photograph this so that we can put them side by side, and then we can see which one you like better, or if you think that the changes that I made actually improved the composition. So please let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.